The Galactic Council had ruled the stars for 12,000 years before humans found their first alien signal. It was a simple beacon, floating in the dark space beyond Mars. When the human ship Horizon's Edge followed that signal, they discovered they were not alone in the universe. Admiral Park stood on the bridge of her ship and watched the massive alien station grow larger in the. Her heart was beating fast, but her face showed nothing. She had trained for many things in her life, but not for this. Nobody had trained for this. Admiral, her communications officer said, they are asking us to identify ourselves. Took a deep breath. Tell them we are humans. Tell them we come in peace. Tell them we want to be friends. The message was sent. The reply came quickly. The aliens called themselves the Galactic Council, and they invited the humans to send a representative to speak with them. 3 months later, Ambassador arrived at Nexus Prime, the capital of the Council. He was a calm man with gray hair and kind eyes. He had spent 30 years as a diplomat on Earth, solving problems between nations. Now he had to solve the biggest problem of all. He had to convince aliens to accept humanity. The council chamber was enormous, felt very small as he walked to the center of the room. Around him sat representatives from dozens of species. Some looked like insects, some looked like crystals, some looked like nothing he had ever seen before. The leader of the council was of the. He was tall and made of living crystal that glowed with soft blue light. When he spoke, his voice echoed through the chamber like music. "You are the human representative," said. It was not a question. "I am," replied. "I come on behalf of the United Earth Confederacy. We wish to join your council as equal members." A sound moved through the chamber, realized it was laughter. Ambassador of the leaned forward. She had silver skin and large dark eyes. "Equal members. Your species has existed for only 200,000 cycles. My people have sailed between stars for 3 million. They have done so for 9 million. What makes you think you are our equals?" Kept his voice steady. "We learn quickly, we work hard, we wish only to contribute." "Contribute what?" asked. "Your technology is primitive, your ships are slow, your weapons are weak. You fight wars among yourselves like animals. You live for barely 100 cycles and then you die." "Those things are true," admitted. "But we have other qualities. We are creative. We are determined. We help others, even strangers. Give us a chance to prove ourselves." The council discussed for 7 days. During that time was kept in a small room with no windows. Nobody came to speak with him. Nobody asked his opinion. He simply waited. On the 7th day, they called him back to the chamber. "We have decided," announced. "Humanity will be granted provisional associate status." "Bode, thank you. What does this status include?" "You may trade in designated zones. You may travel on approved routes. You may not vote in council matters. You may not access the repository of knowledge. You may not settle beyond your assigned sector." Understood. They had given humanity almost nothing. They had opened the door just a crack. "We accept," he said. When he returned to his ship, Captain was waiting for him. She was a strong woman with short black hair and sharp eyes. She had read the terms of the agreement. "They have given us nothing," she said. "We cannot vote. We cannot learn from their libraries. We are trapped in a tiny corner of space while they control everything else." Removed his formal coat and sat down heavily. He was very tired. "They have given us a foot in the door," he said. "That is all we needed." Shook her head. "They do not respect us. They think we are insects. They think we are children." "Perhaps," agreed. "But children grow up and insects can build great things." He looked out the window at the stars. "We will show them, not with anger, not with demands. We will show them with our actions. We will help them even when they do not ask. We will work hard even when they do not notice. And one day they will understand what we are." Did not look convinced, but she trusted. He had never led them wrong before. On the trip home, wrote a message to Earth. He told them about the council's decision. He told them about the limited rights they had been given, and he told them his plan. "Do not be angry," he wrote. "Do not be proud, be patient, be useful. Help everyone you meet and ask for nothing in return. Plant seeds today and you will harvest the fruit." President read the message in her office in Seoul. She was a practical woman who had grown up poor and worked hard for everything she had. She understood his plan. She stood before the Confederacy Assembly and gave a speech. "The aliens think we are nothing," she said. "Let them think that. While they are looking down at us, we will be working. While they are dismissing us, we will be helping. And when they finally look up, they will see that we have become something they cannot ignore." The Assembly voted to accept the Council's terms. Humanity had taken its first step into the galaxy. It was a small step, almost invisible. But it was only the beginning. 50 years passed. Humanity spread through the galaxy like water finding cracks in stone. They went to places nobody else wanted to go. They did jobs nobody else wanted to do, and slowly, quietly, they became important. Doctor was one of these quiet workers. She was a small woman with glasses and messy hair. She never cared about looking important. She only cared about solving problems. Worked on a farming planet called 4. The planet was beautiful with purple fields that stretched to the horizon, but the crops were dying. A fungus called rot was killing everything it touched. The scientists had studied the problem for 300 years. They had written many papers about it, but they had not solved it. Did not write papers. She went into the fields. She dug in the dirt with her hands. She collected samples and studied them in her small laboratory. She worked 18 hours a day for 2 years. One morning, she found the answer. The fungus was not one organism but two, working together. Kill one without killing the other and the problem would return. But if you attacked both at the same time with a special combination of chemicals, the fungus died forever. Presented her findings to the Biological Sciences Consortium. The room was full of scientists who had studied rot their entire lives. "Interesting," the lead scientist said. "We will add your research to our records. Of course, this work was done under supervision, so the credit belongs to the consortium." Said nothing. She simply nodded and left the room. That night she uploaded her complete research to the public network. Anyone could access it. Anyone could use it. She did not put her name on it. 3 months later, 4's crops were healthy again. The farmers celebrated. The scientists accepted awards. Was already on another planet, solving another problem. Engineer O had a similar story. He was a big man with rough hands and a loud laugh. He fixed things. That was his gift. Worked on Outpost Meridian, a space station that had served as a refueling stop for 400 years. The station was old and tired. Its systems broke down constantly. The who ran the station did not want to spend money on repairs. Studied the station's cooling systems for 6 months. He realized the original design was wasteful. Heat was being pumped in circles instead of being released into space. With some simple changes, the station could run on 40% less power. He made the changes himself, working at night when nobody was watching. He used spare parts that others had thrown away. When he was finished, the station ran better than it had in a century. Director, the administrator, was very pleased. He submitted designs to the Engineering Guild under his own name. He received a promotion and a large bonus. Said nothing. He packed his tools and moved to the next station that needed help. This happened everywhere humans went. They solved problems, others took the credit. The humans never complained. Some aliens noticed. Counselor of the was one of them. He was an old politician who had seen many things in his long life. He watched the humans with curious eyes. "They are strange," he said to his assistant one day. "They work hard and ask for nothing. They help their enemies. They give away their knowledge for free." "Perhaps they are stupid," his assistant suggested. Shook his head slowly. No, I do not think they are stupid at all. I think they are playing a very long game. I just do not understand what they hope to win. The humans continued to work. They became mechanics, doctors, engineers, and traders. They learned alien languages and alien customs. They made friends with species that had hated each other for. But the council still treated them like insects. The Territorial Redistribution Act was the clearest example. They needed new mining sites for their growing empire. They looked at a map and chose 3 systems. It did not matter that 30 million humans lived in those systems. It did not matter that humans had built cities and farms and schools there. These territories are reassigned, announced. The human settlers will relocate within 1 standard year. Ambassador, now old and gray, stood before the council one more time. His voice was calm, but his eyes were sad. These people have lived in those systems for 3 generations. They have built their lives there. Can we not discuss an alternative? Did not even look at him. There is nothing to discuss. The decision is made. Filed a formal protest. It was without discussion. 30 million humans packed their belongings and left their homes. They did not riot. They did not fight. They simply left. On Earth, President gave another speech. She was old now too, near the end of her final term. I know you are angry, she said. I am angry too, but we must be patient. We are building something the council cannot see yet. Every connection we make, every problem we solve, every hand we extend, these are investments. One day those investments will pay off. Most people believed her, but some were beginning to wonder if patience would ever be enough. The incident at Station changed everything. Station was old. It floated in space like a giant metal flower, home to 40,000 people from a dozen species. Families lived there. Children went to school there. Merchants sold goods in busy markets. For 400 years, the station had been a peaceful place. Then the reactor began to fail. Commander Shin was 3 hours away when she received the distress signal. She was a small woman with short hair and calm eyes. She commanded the patrol ship Silent Dawn, a tiny vessel with a crew of only 12. Commander, her sensor officer said, Station is reporting a cascade failure in their main reactor. They estimate 6 hours until complete meltdown. Pulled up the data on her screen. The numbers were very bad. If the reactor exploded, everyone on the station would die. Where is the council response team? She asked. The nearest engineering ship is 3 days away. 3 days? The station had 6 hours. Looked at her crew. They were young and scared, but they trusted her. Set course for station, she said. Maximum speed. Her first officer, Lieutenant Han, moved closer and spoke quietly. Commander, that route takes us through restricted space. We do not have authorization. I know. And Station uses technology. We are not certified to work on their systems. I know. If we do this, the council will punish us. Looked at him. If we do not do this, 40,000 people will die. Set the course, Lieutenant. They arrived in 4 hours. The station was in chaos. Alarms were screaming. People were running through the corridors, looking for escape pods that could only hold a fraction of the population. And her crew went to work immediately. They did not ask for permission. They did not wait for instructions. They ran to the reactor core and started fixing things. The technology was complex, but Engineer, a young woman named, had studied alien systems for years. She understood what was happening. The coolant pumps are frozen, said, her hands moving fast over the controls. If we can restart them manually, we can stop the cascade. Do it, ordered. For 5 hours, the crew of the Silent Dawn fought to save the station. They crawled through maintenance tunnels filled with toxic gas. They repaired broken pipes with tools designed for human ships. They carried injured workers to safety on their backs. Nearly died when a power surged through him against a wall. He got up, wiped the blood from his face, and went back to work. When the engineers finally arrived, they found the station quiet and stable. The reactor was running normally. The crisis was over. Not a single person had died. Expected thanks. She expected gratitude. Instead, she received a summons to appear before the Galactic Council. Sat in his crystal throne and looked down at her with cold eyes. "Commander Shin," he said, "you are charged with violating restricted space ordinances, operating engineering equipment without proper certification, and interfering with Council-designated response protocols." Stood straight. Her uniform was still dirty with coolant and blood. She said, 40,000 people would have died if we had waited for the authorized response team. That is not relevant to the charges. I saved 40,000 lives. How is that not relevant? Leaned forward. The rules exist for a reason, human. If we allow every species to ignore them whenever they feel justified, chaos will follow. Order must be maintained. The trial lasted 1 day. Was found guilty on all charges. Her command was taken away. She was banned from operating any vessel in Council space. Her ship, the Silent Dawn, was confiscated. When walked out of the Council chamber, she did not cry. She did not shout. She simply walked away with her head held high. On Earth and across human space, the reaction was immediate, but it was not what the Council expected. There were no protests, no riots, no angry speeches. Instead, something much quieter began to happen. Humans started coming home. Doctor closed her laboratory and returned to Earth. Engineer O packed his tools and left Outpost Meridian. Thousands of doctors, engineers, teachers, and workers quietly resigned from their positions and boarded ships heading back to human space. Ambassador requested one final audience with the Council. He was very old now, walking with a cane, but his voice was still strong. The United Earth Confederacy formally withdraws from all Council agreements, treaties, and territorial arrangements, he said. All human personnel will return to Earth space immediately. We thank the Council for the opportunity to serve. He bowed once, turned, and walked out. He did not look back. Watched him go. Good riddance, he said. They were never important anyway. Ambassador of the felt uneasy, but she said nothing. The humans left quietly. They took nothing that was not theirs. They said goodbye politely. They wished everyone well. And then they were gone. The problem started slowly. At first, nobody noticed. The humans had been so quiet, so invisible, that their absence seemed like nothing at all. Outpost Meridian was the first to fail. Without Engineer O's regular maintenance, the cooling systems he had designed began to break down. Director tried to fix them himself. After all, he had submitted the designs under his own name. He should understand how they worked. But he did not understand, had made improvements that were not in the official documents. He had fixed small problems before they became big ones. He had adjusted settings based on years of experience. Within 6 months, Outpost Meridian's reactor overheated. The station was evacuated. 40,000 travelers were stranded without fuel. Trade routes that had run through the station for centuries were disrupted. On 4, the rot returned. The treatment doctor had developed still worked, but the fungus was changing. It was adapting. Had continued refining her formula during her years on the planet, always staying one step ahead of the disease. Now she was gone. The scientists tried to adapt the treatment themselves. They failed. Within 1 year, 60% of 4's crops were dead. Famine spread to 3 neighboring systems. The Frontier Medical Initiative collapsed entirely. Humans had staffed 70% of clinics in the outer territories. Nobody else had wanted those jobs. The clinics were in dangerous areas, far from civilization, serving species that could not pay much. They refused to send their doctors to such places. Those positions are beneath our training, their medical council announced. People began to die. Diseases that had been controlled for decades returned. Injuries that could have been treated became death sentences. Ambassador of the finally understood the problem. She traveled to the human border and requested a meeting with the human embassy. She was told the embassy had been closed. All human staff had returned home. There was no one to meet with. On Nexus Prime, the Council began receiving reports from across their territory. Systems were failing. Trade was disrupted. Old conflicts between species were returning because there were no human diplomats to calm things down. Counselor stood before the council with a thick folder of reports. The humans did more than we knew, he said. They maintained systems we had forgotten about. They fixed problems we did not even know existed. They mediated disputes we considered solved. He dropped the folder on the table. We are falling apart. Was not convinced. We ruled this galaxy for 12,000 years before the humans arrived. We will manage without them. Will we? Pulled up a map on the main display. Red lights showed system failures across Council space. Look at this. Every red light represents something the humans were quietly maintaining. We did not pay them for it. We did not ask them to do it. They just did it because they wanted to help. Then they were fools, said. Perhaps, but we are the greater fools for not recognizing what we had. Ambassador spoke for the first time in months. The Meridian bypass was considered impossible to navigate for 2,000 years. Human cartographers mapped it in 1 decade. The station design flaw existed for 600 years. A human engineer fixed it in 1 afternoon. The agricultural crisis on 4 defeated our best scientists for 3 centuries. A human researcher solved it in 2 years. She paused and looked around the chamber. We called them primitive. We called them children. We took their work and claimed it as our own. And now they are gone, and we are discovering how much we needed them. Stood up, his crystal form glowing with anger. You suggest we beg them to return. I suggest we acknowledge our mistake. The do not make mistakes. Lowered her eyes. She knew better than to argue with the when he was angry. But privately, she began to prepare. She gathered information about human culture and history. She learned their customs and their language. She studied the agreements they had signed and the insults they had endured. And she waited. Meanwhile, in human space, life continued. The humans had lost their positions in the galaxy, but they had each other. They rebuilt their economy. They developed new technologies. They raised their children and told them stories about the galaxy beyond their borders. Commander Shin, now a civilian, became a teacher. She trained the next generation of engineers and pilots. She told them about Station and the lives they had saved. Remember, she said to her students, we did not help those people because we wanted rewards. We helped them because they needed help. That is who we are. Never forget that. Doctor retired to a small farm on Earth. She grew vegetables and watched the sunset every evening. Sometimes she thought about 4 and wondered if the crops were still dying. But she did not go back. She could not go back. Ambassador died peacefully in his sleep, surrounded by his family. His last words were simple. We planted the seeds. Someone else will harvest the fruit. 5 years passed. The galaxy grew darker. And then something new appeared on the horizon, something terrible. They were coming. They came from beyond the outer rim, from a place no map had ever shown. They were machines, but not like any machines the Council had seen before. They did not talk. They did not negotiate. They did not make demands. They simply arrived at a world, consumed everything on it, and moved to the next. The first 3 planets fell in 1 month. The Council sent their greatest warships to stop the advance. The warships were destroyed in minutes. Called an emergency meeting. For the first time in his long life, he looked afraid. We need more ships, he said. We need better weapons. We need to coordinate our defenses. But coordination was impossible. The communication relays that humans had maintained were failing. Military vessels could not navigate the routes that humans had mapped. Medical ships could not treat the wounded because the best treatments had been developed by human researchers. Counselor stood before the council with a single proposal. We must ask the humans for help. The chamber fell silent. No one had ever asked a non-member species for help. It was unthinkable. They will refuse, said. After what we did to them, they will refuse. Perhaps admitted, but we must try. The motion was put to a vote. For the first time in council history, it passed unanimously. Ambassador volunteered to deliver the request. Her ship traveled for 3 weeks to reach the human border. She arrived at a small station called Threshold. A young officer met her at the docking bay. Her name was Lieutenant No. She had dark hair and a polite smile. Ambassador said, "Welcome to Threshold. How may we help you?" Explained the situation. She told about the falling worlds, about the desperate need for assistance. The Galactic Council formally requests humanitarian and military assistance from the United Earth Confederacy, she said. We acknowledge our past misunderstandings. We are prepared to offer full membership, voting rights, and territorial compensation. Listened carefully. When finished, she nodded. I will forward your request to command, she said. How long until we receive a response? I cannot say. Our leadership will need to discuss whether involvement serves Earth's interests. She paused. I am told that process can take some time. 7 days, perhaps, maybe longer. Recognize the number. 7 days. The same amount of time the Council had taken to insult humanity with their provisional status. Please, said, dropping her diplomatic mask. People are dying. His expression softened just slightly. They were dying at Station 2, Ambassador. She showed to quarters where she could wait. The room was small but comfortable, sat by the window and watched the stars. She thought about all the years the humans had worked for the Council, all the problems they had solved, all the lives they had saved, and she thought about how the Council had treated them in return. We were wrong, she whispered to herself. We were so wrong. 3 weeks passed, waited, she heard nothing. And then one morning came to her room. Ambassador, she said, there is something you should see. She led to the observation deck. Through the great windows saw ships, not warships, hospital ships, engineering vessels, supply transports, hundreds of them moving past Threshold Station toward Council space. We are not coming because you asked, explained. We are coming because there are people who need help. That is what we do. Felt tears on her cheeks. She had not cried in 200 years. On the front lines, the human ships went to work. They did not fight directly. Instead, they evacuated civilians from threatened worlds. They repaired damaged stations. They treated the wounded. They fed the hungry. Admiral Park, now old and gray but still commanding, appeared before the Council via hologram. Humanity does not return as your servants, she said. We are not your tools. We are not convenient workers to be used and thrown away. We are partners or we are nothing. Had no words. For the first time in his existence, he had nothing to say. It was Counselor who spoke. Then let us be partners, Admiral, true partners, and let us never forget the lesson your people taught us. Which lesson? Asked. That the measure of a species is not the age of their civilization or the power of their weapons. It is how they treat those who can do nothing for them, and how empty the universe becomes when good people walk away. The war against the lasted 11 years. It was not one with superior weapons. It was one with cooperation, adaptation, and sacrifice. Species that had never worked together learned to trust each other. Old enemies became allies. The galaxy changed. When the war ended, a new galactic charter was written. Humanity received a permanent seat on the Council. They had earned it not through war or conquest, but through kindness. At the signing ceremony, an empty chair stood beside the human delegation. It was a memorial to all the humans who had worked without recognition, who had helped without thanks, who had given everything and asked for nothing. Ambassador's grandson, a young diplomat named, was asked to speak. "My grandfather once told me that we were planting seeds," he said. "He said someone else would harvest the fruit. I wish he could see this day. I wish he could see that the seeds have grown into something beautiful." He looked at the empty chair. "We never wanted to be conquerors. We never wanted to be rulers. We only ever wanted to be useful. Remember this chair. Remember what it cost you when it was empty, and never let it be empty again." The ceremony ended. The delegates signed the charter, and from that day forward the chair was never empty again. The humans had walked away quietly, but in the end they came back, not because they had to, not because they were asked, because helping others was simply who they were.